Okay, so today's our last day with factoring. Today we're going to talk about difference of squares. So this is a special kind of factoring. So keep having that note sheet handy for 7-2 and a calculator if you need it today. But a difference of two squares is always going to look like this. Difference means subtraction, so it's always going to be subtraction. And it's always going to be of two perfect square numbers. Okay. So perfect square numbers, some examples would be like 1, 4, 9, 36, okay, 100, etc. So it's always the difference of two squares. So these are always kind of a two-term polynomial. So yesterday we talked about trinomials that had 3 terms. Today you're only going to have 2 terms in each problem. And again, they're both going to be perfect square numbers, and it's always going to be subtraction in between. So these ones are pretty quick to factor. There's no work to them at all. All you really have to do is take the square root of each term. So my first term, which is 4x squared, you take the square root of that. Take the square root of your second term, which is 25. And the way we write our answer is they're always going to look kind of identical. They're both going to have a 2x and a 5 in them, except one factor has a plus and one factor has a minus. Okay, so there's really actually no work involved with this too much. It's just a matter of taking the square roots. Okay, so let's look at number 1. I have 9x squared minus 36. So again, it has to be minus. 9 and 36 are both perfect squares. I'm just going to go ahead and take the square root of each. So the square root of 9 is 3. And you can always use your calculator too to find the square root if you need. So the square root of 9, okay, if you don't know that by the top of your head, is 3. So, and then the square root of x squared is just 1x. Then we would take the square root of our second term. The square root of 36 is 6. So here's how this factors. There's going to be a 3x and a 6 in both factors. But when you write your answer, one answer has a plus and one answer has a minus. And that is all that there literally is to it. Okay, so let's practice another one. In number 2, I have x squared minus 81. So I have 2 perfect squares. Square root of x squared is x. And then the square root of 81 is 9. So throw one that has a plus in it and one that has a minus. X plus 9, x minus 9. And that's it. Again, order doesn't matter. If you have the minus first and the plus second, it wouldn't matter, just as long as you have both factors. Okay, I'm going to do one more with you, and then you guys are going to try number 4. Number 3 is 16x squared minus 49. So 16 and 49 are both perfect squares. Okay, so now we just have to square root them. So the square root of 16x squared is 4x. So I'm going to have 4x plus and 4x minus. The square root of 49 is 7. So plus 7 minus 7. And that's our answer. So I'm going to have you guys go ahead and try 4. You have 25x squared minus 9. So go ahead and find that perfect square of each term. Write one factor with a plus, one factor as a minus. So go ahead and try it. Okay, so you should have gotten 5x plus 3 and 5x minus 3. That is the square root of each of those factors. So that is literally all there is to a difference of squares. Okay, so again, just make sure before you start factoring, they have to be perfect square numbers, because otherwise you can't square root a number unless it's a perfect square. You'll get some kind of decimal. So they have to be perfect squares, and it has to be the difference, meaning there has to be subtraction in the original problem. But if you have that, go ahead and set up your 2 factors, 1 plus, 1 minus, and just take your square roots.